as the description talks about, in the description box for the video, that this is going to be what's on my mind is about meditation experiences, and specifically then for living the magnetic, ethically, and consensually non-monogamous life that you most desire. Well, let me start out by introducing myself. My name is Non-Monogamous Mark, and I am the co-founder of the nonprofit Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association. And I didn't live my whole life non-monogamously, quite the opposite. In fact, I was a very religious Christian and did not grow up in a Christian or religious home. But then as a teenager, I became a Christian. And then for the first 25 years of my adult life, from about the age of 20 to 45, I ended up going down a path where I became the religious person that I really never wanted to be. To understand that non-monogamy may suit your life better, because before I became non-monogamous, I lived my life on default. And that default was that the only thing that I even knew about was about either you live a monogamous life, marriage, or you live a non-monogamous life that is not consensual and it's not ethical, and it's called cheating. And you see, that was the default that was handed to me, and the only thing that I even was aware of. Tell me, share with me, do you meditate at all? And because I did not meditate for a long time, for most of my adult life. And in fact, it wasn't until just a couple of years ago that I started to meditate. Prayer is nothing like meditation. Not the way I learned about prayer anyway. And so even though I then throughout my religious life, I prayed regularly, that wasn't meditation, and meditation is quite different. Well, then it was about 4 years ago when meditation started to really come into my life. I at least listened to one recording by Esther Hicks. And that one recording was so rich and so in alignment with things that were in my own mind and my own thoughts, that I just thought, okay, I've got to listen some more. And so I kept listening to Esther Hicks, and now I'm a huge fan of Esther Hicks. But then Esther talks about about meditating, and so I started to do regular meditations then. But I didn't know what I was doing. And so my regular meditations were just trying to silence my mind, trying to make it so my mind would go empty. The idea of meditation is so that you basically are connecting your inner being, your inner soul, with a higher power, whether you call that higher power God, or the higher power is the universal energy, or whatever you might call it and identify with, but you are connecting yourself with that higher power. And so that's then what I started to work on to do 4 years ago. And I wanted to start meditating daily, and just 10 to 15 minutes is all I was told to do and to take. And so I would do that, and I really struggled. I did it, and I wanted to do it. I didn't just do it because, well, that's what I'm supposed to do. I really wanted to do it because I wanted to create those connections. But I got my hands on these 30 meditations, and I just couldn't believe they're transformative. I, for the first time, came to understand the power that meditation has. And that meditation, so I go through every day. I do one or two of these meditations at least. Today, I did 2 of these meditations. One of the first meditation I did, it took about 15 minutes. And that was a process that Chris took me through, where it's taking a negative emotion that you feel that has just been kind of stuck in your life for a long time. And in fact, the negative emotion that I tapped into is an emotion of resentment that had been stuck in my life for so long that I really just wanted to forget about it and move on with my life, and didn't want to take and do anything about that, just kind of leave it sitting there, again, just kind of drifting around. with that there. And so that energy though was never really released from my life. It was there and kept popping up from time to time throughout my life over the last 20 years, and that kept popping up. And I didn't even know until this morning's meditation that it all went back to some resentments in my own life towards a person that was in my life. And so this morning's meditation was such a beautiful experience because it took that negative resentment that was sitting there really almost dormant in my life, just kind of drifting through my being and sitting there inside of me. And I took that then and was able to, the process that my mentor Chris uses in these meditations, in this meditation, is to imagine a movie screen down there, and that movie is being played. And so you can put yourself in that movie, and you go back to where the movie began, and then come through the various events that movie takes you through. And of course, for me, it was many years of my life that took me through. And as that happens, then my mentor in this meditation leads me to going back into that movie and rewriting the script. And so I rewrote the script this morning. And you know what I did? It was so beautiful. I rewrote the script and just took that person out of the script. Now, at first, when I did that, the thing that popped into my mind was, well, I can't take that person out of my life like that. It's a close relative. I can't take that person out of my life like that. And then I thought, well, why not? You know, when we think about it, people a couple hundred years ago, they didn't have the communication means that we have today. And so what they did is they did like what we see happening in the animal kingdom. And that is where animals grow up and they leave the nest, or they leave the family, whatever kind of animal that may be, whether it be a bird or a lion or a rabbit or whatever. But they leave and they go out and they create their own life. And when they leave and create their own life, most of the time, most animals don't ever go back and see their family again. But we humans, we don't do that. We don't do that because we feel it's family. We got to stay connected with these family members, and we create our own attachments. It's not an attachment that we have to have. It's an attachment that we create. And I think then about the people a couple hundred years ago. You know, I can think about Christopher Columbus, you know, and when he got on those sailboats and he was gone for years, did he call home? You know, no, he was creating his life, and he was free to do that because he didn't have the attachments of his family saying, oh, you can't be away from us for more than a week or a month or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months. You've got to come home. He didn't have the attachments that we create in our own life. So that was one of the things then that this morning, this meditation came to me, and I just realized, yes, I have an attachment to family, and that's an attachment that I created. And some of that can be good because some of our family is good in our life, and some of our family is toxic in our life. We need to get rid of those toxic memories and those toxic people from our lives. And the only reason that they are in our lives is because we keep them there. Now you can say, well, but you know, that's expected of me because my other family members, they want, you know, the family to be happening. I create my life. My other family members don't create my life. And you can also create your life. And so that's one of the things that we help you to be able to go through this process in our coaching program so that you can create the magnetic, ethically and consensually non-monogamous life that you dream to have and to live. And so, you know, yes, for me then this morning, I just realized, wait a minute, going back there to that movie. I can rewrite the script on that movie and I can just remove that person. But then as I thought about that, I thought, well, yeah, that's really what happens is we create our lives. And so often we create our lives. There are people who are in our lives, but they're just in our lives for a period of time. I think of all the friends that I've made over the years and all the people that I have become involved with over the years professionally. And that many of those people have also become friends. But so many of those people, almost all of them, in fact, aren't in my life today. And they have no part of my life except that they're in my memories. And they were a part of my life for a period in my life. And it was a good thing. But I don't keep dragging them with me into my current day life and feeling this attachment. Like I need to go back and make sure I solidify and keep those relationships alive. No, I create my life. And in creating my life, that means then that if they're still a part of my life, then that's wonderful. But if they're not part of my life, then that's okay too. And I had to realize that, yes, that was okay. Because just like the many people that have been a part of my life over the years that aren't a part of my life today, that doesn't mean that they were insignificant. They had a very important role and a very important part of my life. And they were significant in my life, but it was for a period of time. But what we want to do is, we're taught this by a monogamous culture that says you can only have one spouse, one married person, one person that you have sex with for the whole rest of your life. That's brought to us by monogamy. And it's our monogamous norms that we bring, they spill over in so many areas of our life. And they spill over into our life, and then we start to struggle with that. And like, again, even like our other relationships, they spill over into like our family situation where it was taught, we think, yes, we've got to be attached to these people and we've got to have these people in our whole life for the rest of our life. It's monogamy that teaches us that. And I reject monogamy from my life now. I don't reject it from anybody else's life. I'm perfectly happy that other people want to be monogamous, but I don't. And I'm starting to identify these norms, these things that are in my life now that were from monogamy, that maybe they shouldn't be in my life. And maybe I need to think these things through. And my experience this morning with meditation has really brought all of this, all that you're learning in this video, it's brought it all. My meditation experience this morning brought it all to me. So the first meditation was about taking a negative emotion and just working through that and dealing with that. And just as I did that, just less than 15, it was like 14 and a half minute meditation. It was so powerful that it just brought this joy to my being. It's amazing when you have those experiences where that joy doesn't come to you like, yeah, I really want to be happy today, but it just fills your soul. And it's then coming from the inside out. And then I went to the next meditation, and then the next meditation was a powerful meditation. It's 26 minutes long. Again, Chris Duncan leads me through this meditation. And it's about creating something that you really want. And so he starts out by talking about get one goal that you want to create in your life and write it down. And so I did that. And the thing I wrote down is, I want to create a life that is so full of love that I don't have to tell you that I love you for you to know that, but that love just comes out of me, and that you see it, you feel it, you sense it, and you just know it. I want to be that kind of a loving person. I don't know if you've ever met very many people like that, but I've met a few. In fact, Chris Duncan is one of those people that from the moment that I first met Chris Duncan, he didn't have to tell me that his life was full of loving energy. I knew it. And it goes back to, again, then when I walked away from religion, that I made my religion love. And so I slowly then have started to attract those loving people into my life, that people that they don't have to tell you about their love. You just know that they are a loving human being. And so I want more of that in my life. And so that's what I wrote down as my goal this morning. And so then the next step in the meditation, he says, now write down 3 feelings associated with that. You know, what would be 3 things that if you had that in your life today, if that was your life, what would be 3 feelings that you would experience? And the 3 things that I wrote down was that there'd be this happiness that would just overcome me. And I would be feeling so fulfilled in my life. And there'd be such a good feeling of being fulfilled. And lastly, it would be so magically peaceful. And so those are the 3 feelings then that I wrote down associated with being that person that is a loving, that is just that person, that the energy of love is just who that person is. And then Chris in the meditation says, now write down 3 things that will be different in your life. And so I did. I wrote down 3 things. The first thing that I wrote down, because each one of these I thought about and I contemplated about for a moment. You know, in fact, he says, go ahead and stop the meditation. Just put the little pause thing on. Pause the meditation and write these things down. And, you know, and so often, you know, you do things like this where people will say, well, pause the meditation or pause this and write this down. And you don't write that down. I did this morning, and it made a huge difference because I've done these same meditations, these same 2 meditations. I've done them before. But today I did take and paused and I wrote these things down. And I'm telling you, these 2 meditations I did today had so much more power to them because I wrote the things down. And so then, yes, he says, write down 3 things that will be different about your life. And so the first thing, as I thought about it, the first thing that would be different is that I'd be speaking on stages to large audiences because I do have a lot to teach and to share with people. And I want to share the wisdom and the knowledge, and I want to share the things that I have gained in my own life. I want to share them in your life so that you, if they're things of value to you, you will know these same things without having to go through all the struggle of my own journey. Just like I'm sharing this journey of meditation, when talking about my experience in meditation with you today. And I want you to be able to take and experience these for yourself without having to go through the long journey that I've gone through to get to this place today. I would like to help you to get there faster. And so the first thing I want to do is to speak on stages to large audiences. That would be different, is that I would be doing that. The second thing is that I would have a high level of friends who are magnetically attracted to me. You know, not the people that I went to high school with, not the people I went to college with. And even though there's some high level people in those groups of people, and all of the people, even no matter what level they are at, they're good people to have as friends. But oftentimes, you know, it's better maybe to have friends in the past, again, who are in your life for a period of time, rather than dragging those friends along with you into your life for your whole life. Now, and on the other hand, I know people that have had these friends and these friendships that are truly just magnificent, and they're lifelong friends, and they're magnificent friendships. But you see, the people that I've seen that have had some, that I look up to, that have had these kinds of relationships, those friendships that have become lifelong friends, it's because the people, those friendships inspire each other, and they're friendships that are based on inspiration, and that they inspire each other to have lives that are fuller and better and more meaningful, not lives that just kind of hold you back. And so that's the thing that I find is magical about those lifelong friendships, is that they are there and that they inspire you to keep creating your life and creating a better life. You know, I don't want to have the life that I created 10 years ago, even though 10 years ago I created an amazing life. I mean, it was just 13 or 14 years ago, 13 years ago, that I transitioned my marriage from non-monogamy into monogamy, and I started living my ethically and consensually non-monogamous life 13 years ago. 15 years ago, I started that process when talking to my wife about maybe we should have an open marriage, and we went through a 2-year transition to make that happen. And so, even though, yes, those were magical times, I don't want to be stuck in those times. And so in creating my life, it's a process and a journey where I'm continue to create a magical life. And in doing that, we want to help you to have the magnetic energies working for you in your life, where you draw and pull to you the life that you desire, and you push away those things that just don't serve your life. And so for me, it's all about, you know, people in my life, and I want to draw people into my life that are going to inspire me, and they're the friendships that are going to inspire me. Like, you know, I don't want to, like, for many years, I talk about in my videos, I hung out with wonderful, good people that we'd go out motorcycling, and we'd all motorcycle and go on these motorcycle trips together, and it was fun and it was lovely. And a lot of times we then have a camp out along with that motorcycle trip, or we'd be staying in hotels, but you know, those people all got fat over the years, just like me. Yeah, I gained 110 pounds doing that kind of stuff. And I'm sorry, there are people when they're younger, they'll say, well, you know, I may be fat, or they don't say fat, you know, they all say, well, I may be heavy, or I may be a large person, but, you know, that's okay because I'm healthy and all this. And yet they don't realize that as they get older, that fat is going to turn into disability. I mean, when I got fat, could I continue to run like I used to run 2 miles quite often in 10 minutes? You know, that was very regularly done by me. And as I got fatter, could I run 2 miles even in 25 minutes? No, I couldn't run 2 miles even in 25 minutes. So I wasn't increasing my ability as I got fat. I was increasing my disability. And you can look at the lives of anybody you want to look at and talk to, and go have these conversations with them, and they'll tell you, yes, you don't want to be fat. Every fat person, even no matter how much accepting they are of them being a fat person, if you really sit down and have that conversation with them, and that conversation would be like, hey, if I were to make a choice to either be a fat person, or you could say overweight, or a heavy person, or a large person, or whatever, or a person who just gains a little bit of weight as they go through life. And if I had a choice to be able to do that, or to be the person that would just, you know, be skinny and not gain weight, what would be your advice for me? And if you were to ask 10 fat people that, I'll bet every one of them would tell you, Yes, don't gain the weight. Okay, but there I had already gained the weight. I was 110 pounds fatter. But that doesn't mean that I have to stay that way. And so I decided 13 years ago to create a new life. And the new life that I was creating was one where I was no longer fat. And so, yes, it's been on a long journey, because no, I'm not going to go out and do any of these surgical procedures and unhealthy things. There are so many things out there that are like that, you know? And so it even became a struggle of mine. And of course, I've ended that struggle now, and there's a link about that in the description, but I've ended that struggle now. But you see, and so I want to create. I don't want to create the life and stay in the life that I was even 10 years ago, even though that was a wonderful time in my life, or even 5 years ago, or even 4, 3, 2, 1. Last year, I had a great year, but I don't want to keep creating the same year. I want to create more magic in my life. And that's what is about creating this magnetic life, is that you create more magic in your life from year to year. And so that's what I want to do. And so part of that means then that I need to have people in my life that inspire me to create this magical life that is a greater life. Not people in my life that are kind of anchoring me to my past. And so that's where I realized that, yes, it's not a bad thing to let go of some of that. And even if that means we have to let go of some friends, it's not a bad thing. And so it's time to move on with life. And so I decided the second thing I wrote down this morning that would be different in my life is that I would magnetically attract a higher level of friendships to me. And then the third thing that I wrote down is that I'd be traveling around the world. Traveling around the world. I mean, I travel a little bit now, but you see, as I travel, it's a factor of like, okay, can I afford the plane tickets? As an example of this, next Thursday, a week from today, I was planning to get on an airplane and go to the Philippines for 3 weeks. And I have been planning and looking forward to making this trip happen for 2 years now. And so quite a few months ago, I went ahead and purchased my airline tickets. And I purchased them on an airline that we traveled to China on, and that was China Eastern Air. And it was a wonderful experience going to China in September. And so I said, after we came back from that, why not go ahead and just purchase our tickets through them to go to the Philippines? And so we did. In fact, I kind of watched the sales that the airlines come out with. I used to be in the travel business and I know how to get some really good airfares. And so I ended up buying these tickets for round trip for $430, which to Cebu, from Los Angeles to Cebu in the Philippines, $430 is really a great price. And so I got those tickets, and I've been excited about going to the Philippines. Who would have known coronavirus would come along? And now there's not very many countries that will allow an airplane to land that has been in China. You see, in that airplane ticket took me from Los Angeles to Shanghai. We have a short layover, just a couple hours in Shanghai to switch planes, and then go from Shanghai to Cebu. But with this coronavirus that's going on now, if you've landed in the airport in Shanghai, they are not going to allow that plane to. In the Philippines, they simply, if you left China, you are not going to land in the Philippines. And in the United States, so many places now, if you fly from China to the United States, you're going to be quarantined for 2 weeks. Means that's 2 more weeks before you're going to go back to work and things of that nature. And it's like, I started hearing these reports come out about a week ago. And I started thinking, oh my goodness, how is this going to impact our trip? And I started then to keep track of that. And as I kept track of that, then I started seeing what the airlines were doing. All the major airlines were stopping their flights to China. And I started thinking about, my flight from Los Angeles to China and China and then to Cebu. And sure enough, yesterday I found out that my flight has been canceled. And so now it means next Thursday I'm not going to the Philippines, because you see, now for me to get those same tickets to fly to the Philippines, instead of paying $430 for a ticket, if I just go to an airline, the cheapest price that I can find right now is more than twice that amount of money. You see, I don't have the kind of money where I can afford to spend that much more for my airfare and go on this trip to the Philippines. And so I'm now having to cancel the whole trip. I had, accommodations already booked and paid for, and I had another flight that took me from Cebu to Bacolod on a domestic airline that I'm going to have to cancel, and that means that I'll probably just end up losing that money. Kat, was going with me, she needs dental work done, and we're here in the United States. The dental work that she needs to be done, she got prices anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000, and in the Philippines, she's able to send her records and everything to a dentist there in Bacolod, this town that we already knew that we were going to be going to. And then I suggested to her that she look for a dentist there, and she found a dentist there in Bacolod that has very high recommendations and all that kind of stuff. And it was going to be under $500 for her to have that same dental work done. And it's like, wow, what a bonus. Well, and that's not dental work that has to be done right now. And so, yeah, in sometime, I don't know when yet, because I'm going to start watching the airfares again when I catch the right airfare and it fits into my schedule, so I can go for a 3-week trip to the Philippines. Then we'll go. And so I don't know when that'll be yet, but it'll be sometime later this year. But you see, I want the ability so that I have enough money flowing into my life that something like this comes along, no big deal. I just go and I buy another ticket. And so that's the desire that I have. That's the third desire that I wrote down then today during that meditation. 3 things that'd be different in my life. I'd be speaking on stages to large audiences. Yeah, I speak to small audiences now, but I mean, I'm wanting to be able to speak on stages to thousands of people. And what that means is that I have to create me as a person that make it so that people, thousands of people, will come to be able to hear me and learn from me and listen from me. And so there's work for me, work to be done yet, and I'm creating that person. And then the second thing was having a high level of friends that are magnetically attracted to me. And when I did my meditation, and I thought about, popped in my mind, like, who would be these friends? And there's 2 people that right away popped in my mind. One would be Mike Dooley, an author. I've attended one of his workshops, and he's just has been amazing as a teacher for me. I'd like to be his friend. And then Chris Duncan, again, he's in Australia. Mike Dooley lives in Florida. Chris Duncan lives in Australia, and he's my mentor today. I chat with him a couple times a week, via, we use technology through the computers, and I'm going to even be spending a week with him in March, and I'm excited about that. You see, I want the privilege of having a really close friendship with both these men, Mike and Chris, where then that they just simply take and say, hey, Mark, come visit me sometime at my place and hang out with me for a day or 2. And so I'm, again, having the money to where airfare is just no big deal, and I then can fly off and spend a day or 2 with Chris in Australia. I can fly off and spend a day or 2 with Mike in Florida. Or maybe Mike and maybe Chris aren't going to be home. And this is how Tony Robbins does his life these days. And people that he decides that he wants to allow them to say, hey, yeah, come along and spend some time with me. He a lot of times will be in his private jet, and then he'll invite people, hey, I'm just really busy. I've got a very full schedule. I've got a great life that I've created for myself, and I love my life. But yes, my life is full, and so I'd like to spend some time with you. And if you'd like to spend some time with me, then I'm going to be on my jet for 6 hours going from point A to point B. Why don't you come and spend that 6 hours on my jet with me? And then at the end of that 6 hours, I've got to go on doing the things that are on my schedule, and then you can catch a flight back home or wherever you need to catch a flight back to. Wouldn't that be amazing to be able to have people that you respect and admire to be able to call you up and say, hey, yeah, Mark, come in, and I'm really busy. I'd love to spend some time with you. And the only time I can really squeeze out is a little bit of time, and even the time spent on my jet, I'm going to be needing to do some things as well. I take my computers with me, and I've got my phones and communications and all that kind of stuff. But you know, we can have 2 hours of quality time, and I'd like to spend that 2 hours with you. Just come along, and you know, you can, my jet, it's going to be leaving Detroit, Michigan. And so that means that, yeah, Mark, you need to fly to Detroit to meet my jet there. And then it's going to be going from Detroit, Michigan. It's going to be going to the next event that I'm doing, and that happens to be in South Africa. And so, but you know, we're going to be able to have hours together, and you're going to need to then take and go from South Africa and get yourself home. I mean, wouldn't that be just truly amazing to be able to take and have those kinds of magnetic opportunities drawn to you, and then be able to take and have the kind of money where you can just go off without even thinking about it and buy those kinds of plane tickets. So those are the 3 things that I wrote down. I want to speak on stages to large audiences. I want to have high-level friends that are magnetically attracted to me, and I want to be able to travel around the world at the drop of a hat. And so with that, then I went into my meditation, and I just want to tell you, it was totally magical. And so my meditation experience, that I've shared that then here in this video with you. The thing I wanted to tell you that it's more recently, my meditation experience has been grown immensely because I purchased this program from my mentor, Chris Duncan. Again, cost me thousands of dollars, a lot of money. In fact, big chunk of my savings. Fortunately, I had some savings, you know, but I went ahead and took the money and spent it here with Chris, and it was well worth it. And so I did that, and I got these meditations. But Chris has given me an amazing, amazing ability, and that is that, you see, we're launching my coaching program right now called Foundations to Freedom. And my goal and thing I want to do very quickly here is to have the first 40 people to sign up with that program, with that coaching program called Foundations to Freedom. And so what Chris has done is that he has 30 recorded meditations. The 2 I talked about today were just 2 of the 30 meditations that he has recorded that cost you thousands of dollars to get your hands on these meditations, unless you become one of my first 40 coaching students, because Chris has allowed me to go ahead and give away access where you'll have the rest of your life, you'll have access to all 30 of these recorded meditations. And when I started doing these meditations just a few weeks ago myself, the transformation that has happened as a result of these meditations, I feel like every time I go in and have a meditation session, that I know what that experience is like, where yes, every time you experience a higher level in your own life. And that's the experience I want to have for you in your life, is so that you'll experience that higher level again as well. And so I'm going to put up I'm going to end this right now, but I have a sheet here that I'm going to share with you in a moment. It's action steps. It's based upon this whole sharing right now of this meditation experience, and it's the steps of action that you can take in order to go further in your own meditative experience, your own life of meditation. And so I'm going to share that with you next, and I'm going to just leave that up on the screen for about the next 10 minutes. So that way you can write those things down. In fact, I'll leave it up on the screen for 15 minutes. And that way you can write those things down, because I realize that you may be driving or you may not have pen and paper now. So whatever your situation is that you're doing, then, you know, you'll be able to take and have the ability, because I'm going to leave it up for 15 minutes. Even if you're driving, then you can find a place to pull over and stop, and you can get a pen and paper out, something to write with. And even if that means you have to go into a grocery store and buy a piece of paper and buy a pen, you'll be able to do that, because this will be up for 15 minutes. And so I'll leave that up there for you. So thank you for being with me here today. I see that there's someone that's still on there with me. And so thank you very much. And go ahead, and I'm going to switch over now to that screen for you for the next 15 minutes. There you go. Let's see, I've not done this before, so I'm learning how to see. Okay, and take me a moment to figure out how to do this. And I think this is it right here. Yes, there we go. Action steps from meditation experiences for living the magnetic, ethically and consensually non-monogamous life that you most desire. And so I'll walk you through, I'll take you through these action steps. And the first one is the Surrender Experiment by Michael A. Singer, and the second one is The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. These are two books that I recently listened to them on Audible, and so I'm going to recommend them highly to you. And it's just, again, it's amazing how magnetically these two books were drawn into my life at a time then it just came along at the same time as I started to do this whole meditation experience with my mentor, Chris Duncan. And so the Surrender Experiment by Michael A. Singer was the first one that I listened to, and I recommend that be the first one that you listen to. And Michael A. Singer, then he talks about his life, and he's like, yeah, I'm guessing right now he's probably about 70 years old, and maybe even 75 years old. But he talks about how then as a young hippie kid, you know, when he was still a teenager, you know, he started going to college, and he was just this young hippie kid, and how he learned to surrender his own life, and how he started to do that through meditation. And just like my situation with going to the Philippines, you know, I just surrendered to that. And I know that you know, like I've said many times before, is you've got to be willing to let go of the life that you plan in order to have the life that is waiting for you. And so I plan to go to the Philippines, and since that's not happening, then I'm excited to find out what it is that's waiting for me over these next month, the next weeks, that instead of me being in the Philippines, that I'll be I'm here in Seattle right now for a week, and then I'll be going to California and be there for a number of weeks. And so I'm excited to find out then what is the life that's waiting for me. And so the Surrender Experiment will tell you about the life that Michael Singer, that was waiting for him. And it's truly an amazing, amazing book and story. And then the second book, which was after I read the first one, I said, okay, I really want to read the second one. And that's a book written by also Michael Singer. It's called The Untethered Soul. And it really goes into some deep things about meditation and things that he's learned in life, not just, you know, from meditation, but things that he's learned through meditation, that his meditation experiences have taught him. And so The Untethered Soul. And so I'm going to recommend both of those books to you. The next thing I'll ask you to do as an action step is for this video to like this video and subscribe if you are not a subscriber to my channel. But then also go ahead and make some comments. Comment down there in the comments section, and let me know, you know, what your own meditation experiences are. Let me know if you have any questions about mine, or if you have questions for me. But go ahead and make a comment. But make sure you please subscribe to my channel. And then the next action step is for you to sign up on the email list for Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association. And there's a link down there in the description box below this video. And so just go ahead and go down there. There's several links, but find the one for subscribing to the email list, signing up on the email list for Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association, because that's where, like, for instance, every Friday, I put out an email that's called Follow Me or something like that. I forget what it's, but it's just my way of being able to share with my audience my life and the things that are impacting my life, where I put in there, for instance, the videos that I've watched in the last week. And and a link to them. And I put in there the books that I'm reading and actually reading. I put in there the books that I have listened to. And so I just share with you things that are being a process of creating my own life. Not that you want to take and create the life that I have, but I want to help you to create your own life, the life that you most want to live, so that you wake up every morning loving your life. I wake up that way. I just really, truly love my life. And I want you to have a life that you love as well. But that kind of a life means that you are in the process of always creating that life. And you're creating a life. You can wake up every day and say, yes, I love my life. And I want more. And when you want more, then you create more of that life that you want to create and have. And you just create a life that's more and more and more. And you start to magnetically draw that to you. And I want to help you have that experience. And so in order to have that experience and kind of hang out and stick around with me, then go ahead and click on that link and sign up on the newsletter, on the email for Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association. The last action step for you then is to get your $2,000 worth of powerful, transformative meditations that are done by my mentor, Chris Duncan, and you can get them for free by being one of my first 40 people to join the Foundations to Freedom coaching program. Now, of course, I realize that you don't know anything about that program or know very little about that program. Let me just tell you, the biggest thing is that the whole program is designed to help you to create the magnetic, ethically and consensually non-monogamous life that you most desire to live. Because we want you to wake up every day just feeling like, I love my life. But not just waking up that way. It's important that you feel that same way throughout the whole day, where you just go through the day doing a dance, and it's a celebration because you just love that. You love your life all day long. And it truly is then a life that all day long you are celebrating, because I want you to have a life that you create, that you love to live. And that's what our whole coaching program is about. So yes, we can't do that in one coaching session with you. And so we're going to tell you about the whole process of our coaching program called, again, Foundations to Freedom. We're going to tell you about the whole process for that coaching program, and then how it is then that we're able to help you to create a life that you just love to live. And then how you can do that then and get these meditations, these free meditations, is that there's a link down there in the description box, and you just click on that link, and it talks about, to get coaching. We're going to give you a free 30-minute coaching session. Now, that coaching session will be done either by myself or by my partner, Kat. One of us will do that coaching session. You don't get to pick which one of us. It's really just whichever works into our schedules and what have you, so that we can do that coaching session for you. These coaching sessions, believe it or not, yes, they're worth $189. A couple of years ago, I had to hire a lawyer, and this is actually 4 years ago. I had to hire a lawyer to do some boundary work, just on taking some blueprints and legally defining the boundaries on them. And it cost me over $1,000 to pay her to do that, because she charges over $300 an hour for her time. It's because she has a high level of expertise when it comes to her time, and so she's worth $300 an hour. And so I paid her over $1,000 for her time. And then also I had to have a plumber come into my house and do some plumbing. And so I called this plumbing company up, and I called up and had them come over, have a plumber come over. And they charged me for this plumber $175 an hour. Now, because they understand that an hour of that plumber's time, they got to pay for the plumber and his time, his paycheck, and his benefits package. But they also have to pay for the truck that he drives and the inventory that goes into that truck. They have to pay for the people back in the office to be able to have me call them and make that appointment with that plumber. So for that $175, it doesn't go in his pocket. There's a lot of things that go into that $175, just like there is in our 30-minute coaching session. It's not just time, because normally we would charge $189 for a 30-minute coaching session. And you say, well, $189 is a lot of money for a half-hour coaching session, but it's worth it. It's worth it to give it a tap into our level of expertise in helping you to create the life of your dreams, a life that you wake up loving each and every day. And so with that coaching program, though, that we're going to want to tell you all about it. So that's why we know that it's important to give you that 30-minute coaching session. But think about it. People work 40 hours a week. Why should I work any more than 40 hours a week? Though I do. But people go on their job and they work 40 hours a week. Like that plumber, he works a 40-hour-a-week job. And then that part of that plumber I had to pay him. It cost me for that plumbing job. It cost me over $1,000. Yeah, he came in for the day and was there for several hours, long time. He was a fat plumber. I had to get in underneath my kitchen sink, and it was a mistake. I should have never, because again, I mean, once he's there and he spends the time, he does the job, then it's like I'm stuck having to pay the bill. I just made the mistake calling the wrong plumber, because it's a job that really shouldn't have taken more than an hour, because he's a big old fat guy. He couldn't, I don't know what the deal was. Maybe he also was trying to draw it out. I don't know. It cost me over $1,000. And I wasn't even home. I just called up, and I knew I had to have this plumbing job done. And so I called up, and there were people that were going to be in my home. And so I just said, yes, I made arrangements for him. Just go by there and get the job done. And again, I just called the wrong person. And I've done that with my own coaching. A couple of years ago, I paid a couple $1,000 to a person for their coaching services so I could have a personal coach. I didn't get anything out of it at all. It cost me a couple $1,000. But sometimes that's how things work. I went, and years ago, my wife and I went to a sex therapist. We went to a sex therapist for about a year and a half, and it cost me over $30,000 for that. Sex therapist, this is many years ago. They charge more now. I got a really good rate for $150 an hour. And so then last time I was in therapy, the therapist, this was just like 9 years ago, something like that, maybe 7 years ago, in that it was me and my girlfriend and my wife were all doing therapy sessions together. And the therapist, I think, charged $200 an hour at the end of our therapy sessions. And we all did that for about a year, thanks to Chris, because I didn't have the money to pay for that. And thanks to Chris, she did. And so we went to those sessions. And again, I look back and what did I get out of that year-long session of therapy? And I got some things out of it, not as much as what I think I should have gotten out of it. And so sometimes we just make the wrong decisions about doing things. And sometimes those decisions may seem wrong, and yet later in our life, they become full of meaning. But it ends up costing us thousands of dollars. Well, our coaching program doesn't cost you thousands of dollars. We have made it extremely affordable. And so we're going to tell you all about that in our 30-minute coaching program. But then our 30-minute coaching program also, we want to help give you some valuable things that you can apply right away to your life that are going to help your life as well. Because helping you create that life that every day you wake up loving to live, and every hour of that day you go through loving your life. And so go ahead, then that's the last thing, is to click on that link and get your free 30-minute coaching session. And so I'm just going to leave this on the screen now at this point. Thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.